Brian Holscher, I'm the Executive Director and CEO of the Metropolitan St. Louis Sewer District. I'm going to give you a proposal on MSD's proposed wastewater rate proposal for rates that will be effective from the summer of 2000 through the summer of 2020 through the summer of 2024. I'm going to give you a one-page, real quick overview of MSD just so we have some knowledge about MSD, and then I'll go into the details of the rate proposal. For the overview, MSD is a government utility. We are created by a provision of the state constitution. We are a municipal corporation. We have a voter-approved charter, which is our organic law. Those are the laws that we have to follow in running the district. We have a 6-member board of trustees. 3 of those are selected by the mayor of the city of St. Louis, and 3 by the county executive of St. Louis County. It's important to remember we are 2 utilities in one, and it's probably more important in this particular rate proposal than it's been in the past. We are a wastewater utility and we are a stormwater utility. We're here this evening to talk about the wastewater side of our business. Both of those 2 different businesses have a different source of revenues, different set of activities. We track the cost and the services differently. So we just had an election in April asking our customers whether or not they want us to provide a new stormwater service. Folks elected not to have another stormwater service. That is not what we're talking about tonight. What we are talking about is the wastewater, what goes down the drain when you flush the toilet or when you use your washing machine or when you use your showers. We'll be talking about those. I would ask when we get to the question period that Chairman Tenjus had mentioned, we'd ask that you ask us questions during this proceedings about wastewater. If you have other questions, we've got a lot of MSD staff here, as well as any other source of questions we've got. After the meeting, they're here and they can answer any questions you have if you have questions other than those around wastewater. Service area is 520 square miles. That's the city of St. Louis and about 85% of the county, west out to about Highway 109 in Wildwood. There's 88 municipalities located within our service area. We run 7 treatment plants. They treat an average of 350 million gallons of sewage a day. We have just about 10,000 miles of pipe if you consider the sanitary sewers, the combined sewers, and the storm sewers. And that makes MSD in sewers the 4th largest wastewater utility in the country. We'll talk about the wastewater rates. MSD's proposal includes funding almost $1.6 billion of capital work over the next 4 years. There's 300 projects that make up this list. They are meant to meet regulatory requirements as well as permit requirements. The primary driver is the consent decree, which is an agreement we made with the federal government, the Department of Justice, EPA, and the Coalition for the Environment on how fast we have to resolve the issues that exist in the wastewater system. In that capital program over those next 4 years, we plan on eliminating 50 additional overflows from our wastewater system. The system exists right now when there's too much flow due to rainwater getting in a separate sanitary system. That water either goes into basements or else it discharges to local creeks and streams. We are under a mandate to eliminate the basement backups as well as to eliminate the overflows into the creeks and streams. It'll include the construction of 60 miles of new wastewater sewers. We will inspect 64,000 manholes during that 4-year period. The sanitary manholes you see, oftentimes they are sources of storm water, whether it's surface water that gets in through the manhole lid or sometimes groundwater that comes in through the walls of the manholes. We will replace the incinerators at Bissell and Limay treatment plant. These 2 sites, we take the biosolids that result from the treatment process and we burn those and we use the residual ash as well as the heat to help run our plants and to provide a marketable material. And finally, one of the other bigger projects, we will build a tunnel from the Fenton treatment plant to Lower Merrimack. It'll do 2 things for us. One, it will take the Fenton treatment plant offline, which is important for 2 reasons. One, it is in the floodplain of the Merrimack River. It's been threatened twice in the last 5 years due to flooding, but also the removal of that plant and the construction of that tunnel is necessary for us to also remove the overflows that are in the wastewater system that currently flow to the treatment plant. So with those costs, I've just kind of gone over what's in the capital program. What we're proposing, that capital program represents over 50% of the planned expenditures over the next 4 years. That other 45% consists of debt service, which is about 20% of the proposal, and the rest is our operation and maintenance costs, which are just about 25% of the overall revenue needs. There are some key considerations. The first one are charter requirements. The staff, which prepared the proposal, the Rate Commission, which needs to review that proposal and give to our Board of Trustees, and our Board of Trustees, who need to review the recommendations from the Rate Commission, have 5 factors they need to consider in this rate proposal. The first, the rate proposal has to be consistent with constitutional, statutory, or common law as amended from time to time. The second item, it needs to enhance the district's ability to provide adequate sewer and drainage system facilities or related services. The third, it must be consistent with and not in violation of any covenant or provision relating to any outstanding bond or indebtedness of the district. Cannot impair the ability of the district to comply with applicable federal or state laws or regulations as are amended from time to time. And it must impose a fair and reasonable burden on all classes of ratepayers. This last item is the one that staff and the Rate Commission and our Board of Trustees spend the most time on in reviewing. You will see 2 options. You will see an option to pay for this program that is mandated by the federal government. We will give you 2 options. One, you can pay for it just with cash. We can just take the revenues we collect directly from your bills over the next 4 years and pay for this program. We'll also offer another option to request whether or not the ratepayers would like to authorize additional bonding authority for MSD. It's somewhat similar to buying a house. If you paid cash for a house, it costs a lot more up front, but you don't pay interest expense. If we buy bonds, it does help control rates in the short term, but then you have to pay that interest back as well. We'll offer both of those options to the ratepayers. It needs to be affordable. It's one of the things we're constantly monitoring. I'll mention later some things MSD has done to try and make this as affordable as possible. It needs to also be equitable. We need to make sure that everybody's paying their fair share. There's some underlying items that you would see in the rate proposal. We're making assumptions on customer growth, assumptions on water usage, assumptions on inflation, consent decree compliance, meeting the goals and the deadlines that are in the consent decree drive a big part of what we're doing. And also there's the customer assistance program for low-income individuals. Low-income individuals will be able to take advantage of what we call the CAP program, including this next rate proposal. Our current program, if you qualify as low income, we charge you half the rate that we charge everybody else. That program would still apply as we move forward. Here's the important information. What are we proposing for rates? So first of all, I want to just have a quick discussion about what it is we measure when we bill you. So what we measure is potable water usage. We use that as being representative of what goes down the drain and what ends up in our sewer system. If you are in a house that has a meter on it, a water meter on it, what we will do is we will take your winter water usage, your potable water usage, either November through January, that 3-month period, or December through February. It just depends when we start the measurements. We'll take that 3-month reading. That will be the volume we assume that you sewer throughout the entire year. What we don't want to include, because it doesn't go down the sewer, filling swimming pools, washing cars, watering grass, watering gardens. We don't want to charge you for that. It doesn't go down the sewer. That's a methodology to make sure we're as close as possible to making sure just what goes down the sewer and what we have to ultimately transport and treat. If you don't have a meter, and there are individuals who live in the city of St. Louis, residents who don't have meters, we charge them by attributes. It's the same way they pay for water service in the city of St. Louis, based on the number of bedrooms, water closets, other factors, kitchens. Those all have a flow rate associated with them. It's the same way the city of St. Louis pays for water. It's the same type of volume charge. So we use that data, and that's the way we would bill folks in the city, is based on that volume conversion. That's the volume we would charge them all 12 months. So for those of you with meters, we mentioned we would use the winter quarter, get that usage. Any of those changes get reflected for the first time in your August billing. So even though we collect them over the winter, we want to make sure we have the right data, and the first time you see those billings are in August. That's the first billing after the start of our fiscal year. So that being the way we collect the data, what you see up here is what we're proposing. And the first one I'm going to concentrate is on the light blue. MSD is requesting, we're going to give you two options. One is to provide additional bonding capacity. If you vote in MSD to provide additional bonding capacity, what will happen with the rates is located on the light blue bars. So whatever rate you are paying starting on August 2020, that's the start of our next fiscal year, the increases will consist of a 1.9% increase in 2021, a 3.8% increase in 2022, 3.8% increase in 2023, and a 3.8% increase in 2024. There's another chart that's very similar to what I show up on the presentation that you can find on these one-page handouts as well. So if voters approve bonding, additional bonding, that's what the rates will be. For our typical customer, not all of you pay this, but the typical customer in MSD in 2021 with a 1.9% increase would be paying $56.63 per month. The increase then in 2022 would result in an average rate per month of $58.78, in 2023, $61.02, and in 2024, $63.36. Again, everybody's would be different. If you want to really see your impact, you need to take what you currently pay on a monthly basis and increase it by 1.9% the first year and then 3.8% the rest of the years. There is also an option, because we'll ask the voters whether or not they want to provide additional bonding authority. They have the option of saying, no, we don't want to. If you indicate that, we still have to do the program. We're required by the federal government to do the program. We will then just use the revenues you pay, and that will pay for the program for the next 4 years. The impact there is a little bit different. If you look on the chart, in the first year, there'd be a 1.9% increase. Whenever we do a rate proposal, we make sure the first year increase under either scenario is the same amount. That gives us some flexibility as when we go to the polls and ask the voters whether or not they want to give us additional bonding authority. But after that, the rates will go up faster. 2022, they would raise 15.1% if the voters decide not to offer additional bonding authority. 2023, they would go up 17.1%, and in 2024, they would go up 13.1%. So under the bonding scenario, where MSD gets additional bonding from 2021 to 2024, your rates go from $56.63 on average per month to $63.36. If you decide not to give MSD additional bonding authority, you start from $56.63 in 2021, and it goes up to $86.29 per month for the average customer in 2024. That's a decision that the voters will be able to make, which option they would like to move forward with in paying for the program. Excuse me. What has MSD done to help reduce cost? Well, there's 4 items here. I mentioned the consent decree, the agreement we have with the federal government. We've got an amendment to that provision. There's some regulatory changes that gave us the opportunity to make things much more affordable in the future. We've lowered our O&M expenses. We brought our capital program in on time and under budget. And also, our finance people have done a very good job of financing the program and using different options to refinance the program. What did those savings look like? So in the last 4 years, 2017 through 2020, we've saved about $27 million from what we thought our cost would be for debt. That's mostly through refinancing of our debt. Some of those options have gone away with the change in the tax laws. but our Secretary Treasurer and our Director of Finance will keep looking for ways to continue doing that in the future. Capital program came in $110 million under budget. A lot of that has to do with, we've had a very long program. We got a lot of folks that are working here, a lot of people fighting for this work. We're getting some very, very good prices in a lot of areas of our program. As long as we do our job and make sure it's a level playing field and let people want to come and bid, we'll keep getting those lower prices. So we're 110 million under there. For operation and maintenance, for the last 4 years, we came in $43 million under budget. A lot of that had to do with technological changes. One of the things we changed, excuse me just a minute. Has to do, their technological changes. One example of that is when we inspect sewers. We have to regularly inspect them to make sure they're not blocked up. If they get blocked up, they can cause overflows and basement backups. Used to be we would go in, we would have to TV it, use a jetter to clean the line out. That was a 4-person with a big piece of equipment operation to do that. We checked out some new technologies, and now we're able to just simply pop a manhole lid, put a transmitter and a receiver on one manhole, and a transmitter on one manhole, a receiver on the other end, shoot an ultrasonic signal through, and based on the strength of that signal, we can tell how clean that pipe is. It allows us to do things with a much smaller crew, and we get a lot more production. Those types of things carry over to the next year as well and are already reflected in the cost. And then finally, the impact of the 2018 consent decree. There was a regulatory change. I had mentioned we are replacing our incinerators. There's a regulatory change outside the consent decree that required us to move that work up 5 years. In order to accommodate that, that would have put an excessive burden in the next rate proposal on our ratepayers. We went to the EPA and the Department of Justice, and we got a 5-year extension on our consent decree. So we're doing basically the same amount of work, just instead of 23 years, we have 28 years to do it. And that also helps reduce the amount of the helps reduce the amount, excuse me, of the increases over the next 4 years. So what's really important about that, there's 2 things. One, if we have done some savings that are sustainable and can be applied to this year, it's reduced our cost up front. Anything else that we've saved in the previous 4 years go back in our general fund, and it's the first source of funds that we tap in order to pay for the next 4 years. So it's helping reduce rates. We don't have stockholders. We don't have dividends to pay. I guarantee you we don't give bonuses. The only place we have for that money to go is back to the ratepayers, and that's what we do every one of these 4-year cycles. Any savings we have, we give that back to the ratepayer, resulting in lower rates. Excuse me. So the schedule, MSD submitted its wastewater rate proposal to the Rate Commission on March 4th, 2019. The chairman just gave you some idea of what activities have gone on so far and where you can look to see the future activities. They are required to submit a report to our board by August 19, 2019, indicating what their recommendations are with regard to MSD staff's rate proposal. Whatever those decisions come out, right now we are planning on putting those rate changes in effect on July 1, 2020, which means any changes would show up on your August 2020 bill. It's the first time you would see them. Now, I mentioned that we don't know how we're going to pay for it. That's up to the ratepayers, whether we just use the rates that you pay us or whether we borrow more money. We have a lot of different dates, somewhere between spring 2020 through spring 2021, as to when we can go to the voters and find out whether or not they want to give us additional bonding authority. We're simply going to monitor what else is going on. We're going to make sure we find an opportunity that we can go out and make sure all the voters are educated on what choice they're making. We won't advocate for one option or the other. It's up to the voters, but we want to pick a time where we make sure we have the best opportunity we can possible to educate the voters and let them know what it is they're voting on. This is a list of the Rate Commission public hearings. You happen to be attending the second one on this list. This is also on the Rate Commission's website. We will be giving exactly this presentation at these other meetings as well. And before I pass it back on to the chairman, again, I would let you know that if you have questions other than on the wastewater rate proposal, such as billing questions or questions about stormwater, we do have staff here, and after this hearing, we'll stay as long as is necessary to ask any questions you have about issues that are outside of this proposal.